Okay, we are recording. You want to start us off, Annette, or should I? Or would you
You
like to
start.
go? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you're all here. This is just a small group to explore how to take the empathy circle and build on it with focusing. And I've been thinking about doing this for a long time because I've the focusing work that I've done is just I've always just really enjoyed it. I've taken a couple of workshops on focusing, and whenever I do it, I come away just feeling alive and connected to myself and energized and creative, and it's always a wonderful feeling. And so I met Annette, who's a very experienced focusing trainer, and is going to take the empathy circle and sort of build on it with some focusing processes and principles. And we're looking at creating the next step for the empathy circle, going deeper into our felt experience. So I'm just really, really excited about this. I just see huge potential for adding this to the empathy circle practice. And maybe we can just get started with introductions. If everyone would introduce themselves, take a minute or so. I'm Edwin Rutsch. I'm the director of the Empathy Center. So been working for about 15 years on this topic of how do we raise the level of empathy in the world, and doing all kinds of different projects. Currently working on the center here in Santa Barbara to kind of develop empathy space for doing workshops and so forth. And just also looking how to take our core empathy practices and expand on it into things like focusing, conflict mediation, design, just building a whole curriculum around this. So yeah, so Annette, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Annette Dubreuil. I'm in Toronto, Canada, and have been teaching focusing since 2016, and really ramped up that work to be my full-time work around the pandemic. So I mostly teach online these days. And yeah, I love bringing empathy and using our heart energy to help bring that empathy to create a deeper container for our focusing. So in my view, whenever we bring more heart energy, we can do deeper work, whether it's at the conversational level or the deeper feeling level and beyond. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Thank you.
Iwan?
Hi, I am Iwan. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. First time I experienced focusing in my own therapy in 2011, and professionally started my training in 2020. And since then, I kept going. I'm a healing arts provider, mind body therapy, a trainee in focusing oriented art therapy right now. Expressive arts therapy. And I just love this approach, like focusing oriented and then to bring in other things in which first we connect with the body and we listen, and then we start everything from that point of view. I recently started my own group, in-person group, still building up with, I call it focusing oriented healing circle. So people come and empathy circle, they don't know exactly what that might be. And they're very excited to go deeper and deeper and wider. Good to be here.
Oops, muted. Ingrid?
Yeah, my name is Ingrid Hertz. I live in San Francisco. I moved here about 2.5 years ago after living 30 years in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm originally from Vienna, Austria. Both moves from Vienna to Phoenix, as from Phoenix to San Francisco, have been pretty big life changes. I am still kind of, after 2.5 years, still integrating the last one. I've been involved with NVC, nonviolent communication, for the past about 20 years. on and off. But over a year ago, I learned about the Santa Barbara Empathy Center and been going to the trainings ever since. And it's kind of almost the first area of where I feel I'm creating this new life here in the Bay Area, even though the center is in Santa Barbara, but it still feels like it's taking up, not a big part, but an important part of my life. And I'm kind of still looking for what else I want to do here in this new city. So, yeah. Happy
Thanks.
to be here.
Alu?
My name is Lou Guthmiller, and I got involved in the Empathy Center maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, somewhere therein. And I was a holistic nurse, and I've always been very interested in anything to do with healing body, mind, and spirit. And I pursued many paths. I lived in London for a while, Washington, D.C., 25 years, Hawaii. So I've been all over the place. But anyway, I'm retired, although I used to train and teach throughout the world reconnective healing or the reconnection. And then they wanted me to travel, and I'm like, nope, no more traveling. Anyway, but I still do some in Santa Barbara. I don't teach anymore, but I help with the healing process. I also I did humor, therapeutic humor. And so I do some workshops on that in Santa Barbara also, where you look at destructive humor, healing humor, and how to create inclusion. And I do actually a 2-hour process with people. And then also sometimes I facilitate play, which actually I'm going to do before our next training. So if you guys are coming out, come out on the Fridays from 4 to 6. I swear you will have fun. Anyway, in a gentle way. And so I'm very interested in anything to do with communication, healing, restoring balance, and empathy just falls into the category of my work. Yeah. And I love to write. So I've written several books and cards. And so I'm always, until I drop, I keep learning and keep throwing out the darts, see what sticks. So thank you. That's
Thanks.
me.
Thanks,
I'm up in
Alu.
Mount Shasta, right?
Yeah,
If you've been
beautiful
there.
countryside there.
Amazing. Yeah.
So this is, like I was saying, this is a prototype to see how we can add the focusing process to the empathy circle practice. And I don't know how much background you want to give, but the empathy circle is based on the work of Carl Rogers, and Jean Genlin developed a focusing process and was a grad student with Carl Rogers. And it's a natural connection, and takes the dialogue, the speaking, more into the body. So I'm very excited about this, and that will lead us through the process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I thought what we would do first is experience a little bit of focusing, that I would guide us into experience what Genlin coined, right? He created the term, the felt sense. And that is primarily physical sensations. So we go beyond words, we go beyond concepts to feeling something, and then we find the words and the emotions and what it's all about. And so I thought we'd experience it, and then I'll say very briefly, I have a slide to explain his 6 steps, just as a tool. And then we'll do the empathy circle. And what we just thought is that you'll be able to pause, right? Once we have this skill, we can just kind of pause and dip in. And one way to do that is to close the eyes, but you don't have to close the eyes when we're doing the circle part. You might just share what's there. But we would welcome also to pause in that deeper way of closing the eyes and really being with what's happening now in the body, and then sharing from there. So hopefully that will become clear as we experience it a bit first and kind of, yeah, know it in our bodies. Yeah, any thoughts or questions there before we kind of dive in? Okay. So I'm going to invite you just for a moment to look around you, especially when we're new to doing deeper embodiment work. It's nice for the system to know where you are and what's happening. And as you do that, you might also notice, oh, it feels good to move. There might be something that wants to really stretch. Or, you know, roll, or you might want, oh, here, I'll mute you, like muting people. And then I can say, okay, now you might want to sigh. You might want to let some noise out or yawn. Make those noises. Yeah. And then when you're ready, inviting you to come to some stillness. And you might at that point either close your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable. And I'll invite you to just notice the connection. We're all sitting, I think. So feeling your sit bones on the chair, your thighs. And if your feet are touching the ground, also feeling the support of the floor or the ground, pushing up onto your feet. And you might remember that that ground, for those of us inside especially, underneath us is the earth. So you might remember that connection. I read the other day, we are basically earth and water, right? 70% water and minerals. So inviting you to say to yourself, grounded. Grounded to the earth. And grounded into your physical body. And then inviting you to notice any sounds, and those might be sounds farther away, maybe even outside, cars or birds. And then you might notice sounds closer, like maybe your computer makes a hum. Maybe you can hear the breath at your nostrils. And inviting you also to feel the air on your skin, maybe on your hands or on your cheeks or your forehead. Maybe you feel the breath at your nostrils again, coming back there. Maybe you even smell something as you breathe in. And inviting you to say to yourself, aware of some sensations and your senses. And then I'll invite you to place one hand on your chest, kind of on your heart space. And then I like inviting people to place the other hand like on your jawline, like kind of holding your cheek. And on one side, and then leaning into that hand. And if that doesn't feel right, you can also place two hands on the heart or one hand on the belly. And just hang out here for just a moment. Some self-touch. Some self-care. And then I'll invite us to deepen this by imagining that the breath is coming in and out of our heart space. So to do some heart breathing. So imagining you're breathing in through your heart. And breathing out there. Inviting you to take a few more that way. You might just see what that does to your heart space. And with this heartfelt presence, inviting you to just notice what else is happening in your body. You might notice something in your belly or your chest more globally, or your throat or anywhere else, and inviting you just to notice, just to be present with it. And you might say to yourself, present. And with this grounded, aware presence, you might have a fair bit of calm and grounded, heartfelt energy, and you might feel like you're in a good place. And if you don't feel that way, I invite you to just take a moment and see what your body needs to have a bit more space. You might try putting something down beside you. Or maybe you want to be with whatever that is. Just ask it what it needs. And since we're a pretty small group, I'll just invite you to give me a finger wiggle when you feel like you've made some nice heartfelt energy inside and have some space to go to the next step. Keep going, and if you're not quite there, then you can just all of you really, we always talk about ignoring any instructions that don't resonate, right? If your body says no, I don't want to do that, don't do it. So these are all offerings, possible prompts. Yeah, so the next prompt would be to ask your body something that needs attention, something it wants you to know about. Something we want to get a felt sense about. And we're asking the body for something pretty small, because this is maybe your first time doing this. So we don't want the biggest issue in your life. So we're inviting something that wants attention. And you might just think about it for a moment if it comes as something you know. Or maybe it will come to you physically. Right? It might come into your body. You might notice some sensations growing, slowly forming. So whether you were thinking about it or not, inviting you now to notice what's happening in your body. Where do you have some physical sensations? And inviting you to stay with whatever comes. So not to dismiss something as nothing. If there's something, say, nah, it's something. So you might notice where in your body you're noticing something. And maybe you can say to yourself, if it has a shape, or maybe a size, or both. Sometimes we say it's round like a grapefruit, or small like a walnut, something like that. And inviting you to notice however else you might describe those sensations. Maybe they are moving, or maybe they have a color. They could have a texture or a temperature. And once you've noticed some of the qualities of the physical, I invite you to ask your body to give you a word or a phrase. Maybe it comes as an image or even a body gesture or a sound. Some way to capture what your body's trying to say. I'm inviting you to just see what comes. And sometimes when we do this, we get an answer really quickly and clearly, and we have a knowing sense of, yes, that's what it is. And sometimes you're getting a couple options, and maybe they don't quite fit. And so if that's your experience, inviting you to keep noticing what's happening physically. It might be changing still. Seeing when you offer these different words or images, just seeing which one is close, maybe feels right. Might take a moment or two to get something. And then we'll invite you to ask a really broad question, and that's, what else does your body want you to know? And just see if something else comes. It might come as a fresh thought. Or maybe it comes as a new physical sensation. I invite us to gently round it off. And slowly, in your own time, come back to the group. We'll get to share what came in our empathy empathy circle, and we'll use that as a springboard for it. But I thought we would just spend a couple minutes before we do that, just kind of going over what we just did. And we did it slowly, right? We're not going to do it this slowly in the empathy circle format, but just to kind of get a sense of what it was. So I'm just going to share my screen. So traditionally, in Jenlin's little folksy book, and I didn't bring it downstairs, I'm downstairs today. He had 6 movements or 6 steps. And the way I like to teach them is kind of in 2 sections, 2 conditions and 4 moves. So I'll just kind of go over what we did. And I like to use the metaphor of dancing as a way to kind of describe that. And so when we dance, we need a dance floor, right? We need some space. And that can be a formal dance floor. You could be in a ballroom, or you could be in your kitchen or in the forest, and you just have a little patch. So our focusing can be done formally with other people or professionally even, right? There's focusing oriented therapists. Iwan is training to do that. So we can do it formally, or we can do it on our own and anytime really. And the other thing we need with dancing is music. We need the good heart energy, right? So I mean, you could dance also in different moods, but we usually have some energy, and focusing happens much easier if we have heartfelt energy online, because it allows for something we call the focusing attitude, or in focusing also we call it receiving or welcoming. And so this is a practice of saying yes to anything that comes. Yes, I want to hear from you. I want to know you. And so formally, these two steps are called clearing a space. And we did a version of that. I led you through grounded aware presence, which is a practice by David Rome to help create that space in the body. And then we did also some heart breathing once we had our hands there to help with the heartfelt nature of presence, to hopefully to bring that heart energy online. So those are some ways we can create those conditions to have enough safety to go hopefully into the body safely. And then the focusing happens mostly, I call it dancing, right? The dance moves. We can invite the body to share something. So we'll hear a bit about what came for you as we do our empathy circle. But maybe it comes as a felt sense. You get the physical sensations, and maybe there were emotions or memories or thoughts. Those can all be in there. And then we invited the body to tell us a word or an image or a phrase or a gesture or symbol of some sort. So Jenlyn had a word for that called a handle, right? You get a handle on it, you get a hold of it, you know what it's about. It moves from just being the physical and kind of more feeling level to a bit more of a word or image level. And then we did a bit of the resonating, right? We checked. We said, oh, maybe it's the right word. You got it really quickly, or maybe you need a bit more time for the right knowing to come. And maybe it didn't happen. Sometimes we need more time even. And then asking is this practice of when something is still there, really, has more to say. And we have a whole host of questions we can use in the practice when we do focusing on its own. And today I invited you to ask your body what else it wants you to know. Just a really broad question. Yeah, so that's the gist of it. And I think we can really now move into your formal empathy circle, but every once in a while, either pausing on our own, or maybe the listener might feel, oh, I'm curious what's happening in your body now. Maybe we would offer that question as a way to say, maybe you want to check inside. I think that would be sufficient, and we don't need to do anything else other than what you normally do. How does that sound?
Good.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we need somebody to be the first. I think your terms are speaker and listener.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So who wants to go?
I can go.
You select your listener. Who would you like to listen to you?
I was thinking about going as the speaker.
Okay. And who would you like to have listen to you?
Ingrid, would you like to listen to me?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, and I guess we have to keep time, right, Edwin?
Mm-hmm.
Do 5 minutes for this round?
Yeah, I'll bring up a clock here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry.
I like connecting with my heart space. I like doing that. And when I breathe in, I can see it's like a separate space for me, which is full of light. So I liked being there. I think I'm gonna give you I'm gonna pause now so you can say back to me so it doesn't get too much.
Thank you. You liked this connection with your heart space. You saw it as a separate space in you that's filled with light, and it was enjoyable to be there.
Yes. It really felt like a separate space, and I was all in. And then I realized that none of me, the one that I feel it's me, was in any other part of my body. So then I realized I am in this space, but actually I'm not in my body, something like that.
Mm. So you noticed that this heart space felt separate and you were completely there. And when you paid attention to that, it felt like you were in that space, but not in your body, in the rest of your body.
Yeah. So I was curious about that. And especially when we're like looking for something, a handle, I felt some movement, like lower in upper abdomen, something like that. It was like something moving there. And when I paid attention, I'm very visual, so I got the visuals of like a part of me, like sneaking out of the house, out of the family in the night, and like traveling, exploring, going in nature, it's just not there, not home, and having to sneak out to go there.
So you were curious what was going on when you saw that the heart space is separate, and then when you paid attention to that, you noticed that there was something different coming up in your abdomen, and it felt like this image came to you that it was like sneaking out of the house, like going on some journey, and
Yeah.
You're curious what that is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like the part of me as a child that was out to explore, and it felt it did not belong in that container of family container. It was out and nobody know that part. So it was unknown, it was uncontained, it was not belonging, but not in the idea that, oh, I want to belong and I don't. No, it was not there. It was, and no one knew about that except me from my heart space. And the name that came, that the child, that part let me know how to call it, was the I forgot. I tried many things, but right now it came to me the unrestricted one, and I think that's exactly the word. I could not get it when I was there, but now it just came unrestricted one.
So you were speaking more about this part that feels like a child, this child that has left the home and is by itself, and the family doesn't know that this part exists or that it left the house, and it feels it's not known to anyone, it doesn't belong to anyone. But that's not a negative feeling of not belonging. It's just that this part is separate, and it's you named it the unrestricted one.
Yeah. And I guess the essence of it, which I'm trying to transmit about this, is that part belonged to nature, like completely connected with nature, with kind of everything alive, not in the container. Family as a container.
Yeah, this part is not contained at all. It's not in the family container. It is connected with nature. It's part of nature.
Yeah, thank you. I feel completely heard and understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lou, will you be my listener? You are muted. You're muted.
Yes, I will be your listener.
Thank you. Yeah, so I always react very strongly with physical sensations to everything. So this was easy to do in a way.
So you find that physically it talks to you. So it was easier to do this process.
Yeah, but I am also just aware of a lot of recently I've had so many physical also a lot of tension and tightness that I keep looking at and keep exploring.
So, but you have noticed that you've had a lot of tension and the last while, and you keep looking and exploring what that's about for you.
Yeah, so in this exercise, it came to me that there's just a tiredness in me from all of that, and just a need to let go.
So what's come up is that tiredness and a feeling or a need to let go.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of energy to hold on, but the tensions come from very deep. It's not so easy to let them go.
So you're noticing that the tensions are deep, so it's not so easy just to let them go.
Yeah. First, it was the image I had was of a ghost, pretty sizable ghost.
You had an image of a ghost.
Yeah. It's kind of, a ghost is hard to grab, to you know, it doesn't have substance, so you can't get hold of it.
So like ghost, you can't get the substance, you can't grab it.
Yeah. So it was also a little bit hard to connect with the heart space because of the vulnerability that is that comes up. But then it ended up, it felt like, nah, I can completely be in my heart and not being worried about vulnerability. It's actually not exactly the same space, heart space and vulnerability.
So you were noticing like the heart space, and you came to realize that the heart space is not necessarily connected to vulnerability.
I mean, it has a lot in common, but when you're afraid to be vulnerable and you think you have to close your heart, but you don't. You can just feel vulnerable and still have heart space, or be in your heart space.
So you noticed that you can be vulnerable and still be in the heart space.
Yes, but I actually meant something different. It's like I at least often thought, well, being heart space is being vulnerable. And then if I'm afraid of being vulnerable, I can't be in my heart. But being in the heart space and feeling my vulnerability is not the same space in me.
Interesting. So you're noticing that when you're in the heart space, the vulnerability is not the same. Is that what you were saying, or did I kind of?
But it was that experience of, or I experienced the heart space as very, as not defined. It's just openness.
So you experience the heart space as an openness, not contained.
And if I feel vulnerable, it's actually, well, I'll continue speaking about that later. My time is up. Thank you for listening to me, Alu. I feel heard.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So Edwin, will you listen? Be my listener.
Listening. Mhm.
Well, I noticed that just sitting down here and when we were asked to go into our bodies, actually that was such a welcoming thing. It's like I could feel in my legs the energy just vibrating.
It was a very welcoming invitation to go into your body, and you could just feel the vibrations in your legs coming up.
Is sometimes I can get lost in worries or trying to figure everything out and then trying to let go. And so it's just wonderful just to have a pause and notice the energetic vibration from my legs coming up into my body.
It was nice to be able to just take a pause and feel the energy coming up, the vibrations in your leg, because often you're just trying to figure things out instead. And you're given an invitation to go into your body, which helped.
Yes, and it was just wonderful. And then just sitting out here with hearing the birds and the trees, and just felt that real groundedness and grateful for this process. And my time up here will be very grounding in earth nature.
Yeah, you're feeling an appreciation for this process, and you're feeling very grounded and really enjoying the feeling of being in that nature.
Yeah. And then I was in the heart for a bit, just hanging out. No real image came up. Again, just feeling the lightness. And just, I just kind of, my whole body kind of, my being kind of was kind of vibrating in a connectedness, I would say. It was actually very wonderful.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful feeling to feel that heart space, just to be there, and your whole body was vibrating.
And I did notice some tightness in my upper back on my right, a tightness, a slight, and just gently moving my head and being present with it. I didn't have any images or anything pop in. It was more just a sense of feeling into my body.
Yeah, so there weren't images that came to you, but just a sense of feeling into your body. You had a bit of a tightness in your shoulder, which you sensed into.
Yeah. Yeah, because I tried meditating this morning. Forget it. The mind was going billion miles an hour. So it just in this moment feel very sort of even a contentness.
Yeah, you were trying to meditate this morning, but forget it. Mind was just going million miles an hour versus right now, you're just feeling a sense of contentment.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. I'll speak to Annette and reset here. So the feeling, that I had was an awareness of sort of a tightness, a constriction in kind of the upper part of my head area, sort of a general broad constriction.
So it came as a constriction for you in your head, and it was like general and broad.
And also sort of a knotted quality too. So within that broad constriction was sort of a kind of a tight space, kind of in this part of my body.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. In which part of your body?
This one here, kind of by my head and eye
Oh,
area.
okay.
It's I'm kind of modeling it with my fist.
So there was a knotted feeling near your eye.
And it's from, the glasses, from sort of focusing, not really focusing, but concentrating, looking at computer screens, thinking that it just, I think it leads to that constriction feeling.
Yes, there's a sense that that's all connected to the screen time, the glasses, the concentrating.
Yeah, so I said I wasn't like enjoying it. I don't enjoy that feeling. So I thought, I'll take my glasses off, to begin with, just to see if that kind of helps relieve it. And it helped a little bit to kind of just relieve. Somehow, just wearing the glasses was constricting. Taking that off, it lessened it a little bit.
Yeah, so you had a bit of a relief or a lessening of that intense feeling when you took your glasses off.
And then when I put my hand on the heart, I could feel the warmth, sort of another part of my body. It's kind of more gentler, more spacious, and just feeling the two in contrast. So the two feelings in contrast.
Yeah. So there was warmth in your heart space, and you noticed the contrast with what was happening in the head.
Yeah, and I was like, so just spontaneous, like, oh, I got to breathe into it. So I started breathing, more deeply to sort of address that constriction, which was sort of opening up like something in me wants to open that constriction up.
So then you had the thought, oh, maybe I can breathe into it. And you started breathing, and that was helping.
And yeah, it was helping kind of relax that tension. Then I thought, well, let's get the whole body. Something you said was like, got my whole body into it, and was kind of with the eyes closed, kind of moving it like, oh yeah, I need to stretch it out. Is sort of the feeling, which feels very good. Just it's a constriction, stretching the opposite direction is sort of opening it up. Yeah, it feels very good. I can just feel maybe the tingly, the sensations, the stress, the constriction reduction, and the pleasure of that kind of going away, being replaced with more, space stretching, spaciousness.
So then you had the thought, well, maybe I can move more, and it went all into your limbs, and you got a sense of pleasure with that, and a tingling.
Yeah, there's a sort of a tingly with the constriction by stretching those muscles. It kind of releases something. It tingles a little bit when it's released.
Yeah, so the opposite of the constriction brought a release, a tingling.
Yeah, and I also noticed that I actually like the constriction. Something he says, "Hey, constriction is really good. It's energetic. There's a pleasure in constriction. You know, there's a yeah something. There's something in constriction that is pleasurable too. There's little pleasure senses in constriction too.
Mhm. Yeah, so then you notice the part of you that likes the constriction and the pleasure of that energy.
Yeah, but I don't like the pain that comes. It's sort of headaches, and it's kind of the
Mm.
core of the headache is kind of there, and it feels sort of black and white in it, you know, and yeah, it's not really that's not what I want, you know.
Yeah, so you don't like it when it's the headache part and it's black and white and
Yeah, I feel heard. That's my time.
that's your time. Okay, thank you. Iwana, will you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have much to say about the first part because I was in the, I'm reading this and yeah, it was more walking through it.
Yes, you don't have too much about the first part because you were here and walking us through it.
So I don't really remember much from that. But then when I invited you to find something, you have to invite your body to show you what needed attention. I noticed in my body what came was like a tension in my chest. And I know what it's about, and I won't go into the details about it, but it's about being mortified because I was commenting on somebody's something on social media, and I thought it was like a new idea, and I've just found out that like they've been working on this for one of the ideas for 10 years and the other one for 15 years. So they've been doing this for like a really long time.
Right. So then while you were leading us to connect with the body, then you noticed something in your chest that was coming up like a tension. And you know that sensation, you know that tension, and it's related, it might be related with something that makes you feel like mortified because of something that happened on media when you made the remark and then realized that it was not the way you thought. So
Yeah, by their reaction, I was like, there's something funny with this, the way they're reacting. And I went and looked into them a little bit more, and I was like, oh, their dissertation on this 15 years ago. Okay.
Okay, so you did look into it a little bit more, and it felt like there might be something funny about this, and yeah, then you felt that tension again, felt into it.
Yes, I'm just gonna pause. Maybe I'll demo this part that we could do. Right.
Yeah.
So right now, yeah, it's tight here. And the thought that comes is like, well, how are you supposed to know that? It's like, oh, I just couldn't know that.
Yeah. So when you stay with it and feel into it, you feel it tight, but then this thought, this message comes to you like, how could I have known that?
Yeah.
Like not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we can't. I don't think it's like I wrote a blog recently about I spend too much time learning sometimes, but realizing like learning takes away from other things, right? I'm emphasizing, Edwin, with your like too much screen time, right? So well, what are we doing when we're not doing the screen time? Yeah, so like, on the one hand, there's like a pressure to like, well, you should have known that. You should have done research. You shouldn't have just like, you shouldn't just randomly comment on people's things if you read just one article. And then there's this like this sense of like, well, you can't know everything. That's more from self-compassion coming.
Okay. So you do like learning a lot and you do that. So now there were like two parts. Like one of that part was that, oh, you should have known that because you could have read, you could have paid attention, you things like that. But then the other one was the one carrying compassion and saying, you couldn't have known that. A place of compassion, place of heart.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sense of almost what's coming is like, it's okay to make mistakes. I think I'm a perfectionist, or I try to say I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I'm always like, I think I'm always less recovered than I think. And there's a sense of like, oh yeah, like you just can't know that.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have known that. You really couldn't have known that.
Well, I'd have to go back and read their article and see if there was a link or something, but even still, right? I don't think people, when they write and they put links in blogs, like when I do it, I don't expect people to open all the links and read all the stuff. It's more just like, if you want to read more, here's some links. Thank you very much. Heard.
Iwana, you're up. You select your listener.
Yeah. So do I keep going now?
You keep going. Select your listener.
Maybe Edwin, would you like to listen?
Yes, listening.
All right. So lots of things kind of catching my attention, coming up, resonating with while listening to each of you. But one of them that really kind of boom, like hit me, was when Ingrid said about being tired. And I remembered before I came here to this group, like throughout the day, I felt being so tired. And I know that I could really feel that, as if kind of have that sensation that this tiredness, it takes over. It just doesn't go, and it cannot go. It's just taking me over.
So you have a feeling of tiredness. It just takes you over. And you were reminded of that when you heard Ingrid talk about tiredness.
Yeah. And this was happening before I entered the group, before I connected. And what was interesting was that I completely forgot about that. It's like, and I remember when Ingrid said I was tired, and I was like, wait a minute. It's like that tiredness that was taking over and could I just go. I forgot about it. It's not here. Where is it?
Yeah, before this meeting, you just felt really tired, just a deep tiredness. And then you came here and it's like suddenly you forgot about it, just disappeared. And you're like, there's even curiosity of where did that tiredness go to?
Yeah. And then, like, while reflecting on that and also connecting with my body, inner space, it feels related with what came up through my focusing. The part, the unrestricted part that was living from any restricted space, connecting with what was calling it nature and all that, being free, curious, exploring. And then the one that was supposed to be inside, in a restricted place. And I realized my tiredness forms and lives in the restricted space where I have to-dos, like mundane things. And And then I am like so free and so unrestricted, and so there's no tiredness at all when I go into the space where I feel that's me. This is me. So, and I'm gonna let you just say that to me.
Yeah, you feel two different spaces inside of you. One is all the to-do lists, everything that you have to do, and there's a real tiredness in there. But when you go into this other space, which is freedom, a free space, then the tiredness disappears, and that's really, you see that as who you are, that you are in that space.
Mm. Yeah, and actually those two spaces, I don't see them inside of me. I see them outside of me, as if me, the real one inside of me, has to go in that space, which is not inside of me, which is restricted. And then only when I can come out of there and move in the other space, which is actually like everywhere, is this it's nature, which is everywhere. And I can go there with my mind and for real with my body. And they're not inside of me.
Mm.
It's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
so you find it interesting. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good. You find it interesting how those spaces are outside of you, and you can go into those spaces, but they are outside of you.
Yeah, and right now, it feels as if I don't have right now an answer about how to harmonize those two aspects of myself. So I just noticed that, and that's enough right now. It's interesting, and it's enough. I don't have to find anything else right now.
Yeah, you don't know how you can harmonize those different spaces, but that's okay because you're just being aware of them, and that's fine. Just to know that they're there. Nothing else has to happen, and that was the time.
Yeah, and thank you. I do feel completely understood and heard.
Okay. I'll speak to Ingrid.
Listening.
Yeah, so let me kind of go into the space of the body where it is now. So yeah, my body feels more spacious from hearing everyone. It feels more softer, more sort of gentle, in kind of in a broad feeling, but there's still sort of a kind of a little bit like knives sort of cutting sort of in my eye area.
So, so you centered on your body, getting in touch with what's going on right now. And what you noticed is that there is a gentleness and a bit greater openness that you think came about the listening to others, kind of a softening. But then there still is that sensation of tightness, and you actually called it like knives in your eye area. That is still there.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting with it, seeing what arises. There's an enjoyment of the being aware of the senses. It's pleasurable to just sit and be aware of them, so of what's going on. So I'm sort of sitting in a sense of pleasure and enjoyment just to be aware of the sensations.
So you are being present to what's going on, and you enjoy that. It sounds to me like there's an acceptance that makes it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, there's a newness. I don't know what's going to come up next. So that unknown newness of what feeling will arise next. Like, oh, I'm really curious. There's a sort of a curiosity about that too, which is, it's sort of maybe a new door will open, and what will that new door, be?
Yeah, so you're open to what arises. You're curious, and you have a sense that there could be something new, completely new happening. That there could be a door opening to something completely new.
And I do sense that constriction in the eyes, so that it's a physical, physical stress, pain. I get sort of headaches, sort of from that. So I don't like that. It's a real problem. So I'm just aware of it. Yeah.
So you're noticing that constriction, and you are aware that it's just a physical problem, but it is a real problem because it causes you headaches, and really you obviously don't like those. But it's mainly a physical issue.
Yeah. So just waiting to see what arises, sort of the warmth, the feeling of warmth, being aware of that, the sharing of that, and just kind of, there's the feeling of wanting to stretch it out. Yeah, that's it. That was a big one. Really stretch it. Yeah, maybe I need to take yoga or something just to stretch that body going in the opposite direction. Something, yeah. Something that stretches the body, It's like,
So you were just sitting with that feeling, waiting for what would arise, and then there was this desire, this need to stretch your body, and you just wanted to stretch and open your body, and starting to think maybe yoga helps, but there's a real desire to just open the body and make room.
Yeah, and there's sort of another idea or feeling came up is the verbal stretching, like woohoo, yay, kind of a whole kind of a loud stretching of the voice is another feeling that's coming up. It's like stretch everything, stretch it all.
So with that feeling of the stretch came this need to also do that with your voice and make a sound while you stretch. And it's kind of this pleasure of stretching and wanting to stretch it all.
Yeah, I feel very heard. That was my time too. Thanks.
Annette, would you be my listener, please?
Sure thing, Ingrid.
So what I notice is in my body is this actually kind of separated parts, which is I don't like, but that's how it is now. I feel distinct separate parts.
So as you're tuning in, you're noticing distinct separate parts in your body, and you don't like that.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this comes from an idea, but I seem to remember times when my whole being was integrated and felt more one, and doesn't feel that way. So I don't think it's just an idea that it's better to feel one.
So you think you've had that experience before of being integrated. It's not just an idea.
Yeah. So the heart space is available to me and is there. That's kind of one part. But then there's this other area around the eyes that is somewhat has its own sensations, and there's kind of sadness around the eye area. And then in the belly, there's kind of the lower abdomen, there's constriction. So the heart is open and can be open, but it's like these three different areas.
So you're noticing, in addition to your heart feeling open from before, you've got the sadness in your eyes, and a constriction, something in the belly, in the lower belly.
Yeah. Then there's also my hands and arms that are kind of feels like they don't know what to do.
Oh, yeah. Like your hands, your arms don't know what to do.
Yeah. So I'm I also do have to go to the bathroom, but the restriction in the belly is not only that, but it's good to get in touch with this wish to have these parts more connected.
Yeah, so you're noticing a wish to have all of these parts be more connected. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you also need to go to the washroom.
Yeah, but I'm fine. Just since we're talking about the body, I wanted to explain this detail as well, but it's not that important. Yeah, It's interesting because a few nights ago I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt that wholeness and deep relaxation. It came in the night, in the middle of the night, it came from my heart. It was very peaceful. And I very grateful for the experience. I mean, it's actually, when I talk about the wholeness, I'm really also talking about the experiences I have when, when there's either deep meditation or other deep work going on, or when I paint or so. So it's kind of maybe a high standard.
So the experience from just a few nights ago, you had that whole wholeness integrated experience. You woke up in the night and you said it came out of your heart space and you felt integrated. And you know this place. You feel it also when you're painting or doing deep meditation. And there was one more piece. I forget the last piece. Was it something like you have high expectations?
Yeah, the standard is
Right.
so.
You're like, you know what it's like when it's really good, and it's hard when you're not quite there.
Yeah. I don't know if I can feel like that all the time, or if it's kind of normal to not feel like that all the time. Just right now, I experience it as something I would want all the time.
Yeah, so you have a wondering. Can I feel that way all the time? There's a sense that you want it.
Yeah, I guess it has to do with paying attention, because if I'm involved in everyday life with activities, I may not know this either way, how I exactly feel in my body. So, but right now that I'm paying attention, I just see how much I actually value that state, and it's something I want to not hold on to in a tight sense, but I just want to keep in mind and heart. My time is up.
Yeah, time is up. So you want to keep all of that in mind and in your heart.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And we just lost Alu.
Yeah, she was doing some renovation there. I think she had to step away to deal with some kitchen work.
Do we want to take a 2-minute break for Ingrid to go to the washroom?
I'm fine.
Do you want to
Are we going till 1:30?
Yeah, we have 12 minutes. So do you want to debrief, or how do you close?
Yeah, I don't need to take a break.
So I guess I'm the last one to share, right? You've all shared your second time, so I would share and then we would debrief, or we can go right into the debrief. I don't need to share.
No, we want everyone to have equal time.
That's okay, because we might not then have enough time to debrief.
Okay. How many times have you spoken?
I only spoke once, but that's okay.
Oh, let's do 2. That'd be good to have it. Yeah, it's only 5 minutes. We'll have time. You can go over a little bit. It's good if everybody has 2 turns, I think.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask Alu, so I guess, Edwin, will you listen?
Yep, listening.
Yeah. So I'm going to just pause. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, just pausing, not sure what's arising yet.
Yeah. Hmm. It's something like kind of thinking about parts and these different ways our parts show up and how I'll speak personally. It's like I can be upset with myself for the part that makes a mistake, right?
Yeah, you're just thinking about the different parts that show up, and there's that one part that it gets upset when you're making some error, some mistake.
Mhm, mhm. And then there's also a sense that I've noticed over time that our parts are kind of like spectrums and they can kind of move. And so it's like when we feel wholeness, there's a sense of everything's like grounded and heart-centered, and everything is like full. When it's fully integrated and whole, it feels like nothing's in defense mode or something like that, that everything can be here and present. And I don't know, there's a sense of understanding that, and then understanding when the parts do come, like my example today is like my system noticed there was something with the response. It was like it's a weird response. There's like there's something missing. And so it's just like actually what's coming is like the awe of the body. I keep coming back to that, the awe that the body can know these things, pick up on these things, and then kind of communicate it to us to be like, yeah, pay attention to this. There's something here. And then also kind of the frustration that it does it kind of in this cryptic way sometimes, right? Like that it can come physically first. It's almost, maybe there's a part of me that wishes it came more quickly or more directly. Kind of funny thing to say. Being somebody who teaches this practice. But I guess I'm noticing the part of me that doesn't like it, doesn't like that we have to like put 2 and 2 together and go, oh, that's there because of this or whatever it is. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking.
Yeah, so there's you're in awe that these feelings, this awareness, this happens, that even happens, but it kind of happens sort of cryptically or in little bits and pieces, and you kind of wish that it would just happen all at once instead of having to wait, for it to sort of make sense or to emerge and develop.
Yeah, there's a small part of me that I'm noticing is like that. It's like,
Yeah, a small part of me wants that to happen.
Most of me is happy to be in the process and in the flow and the richness and the complexity, and Jenlin's word, the intricacy of life being so fascinating.
So the majority of you is happy to be in this process of life and Jenlin's development, but a little bit would like it just to be there quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay. So, yeah. So should we do some sort of debrief? How do you have a debrief in when you were doing focusing, or?
When we do the empathy circle where we stay with the same topic, or even in the changes group, which is our drop-in one, it's just an open discussion usually.
Okay.
We have extra time.
Mhm.
But I guess I would offer a question to you two, especially Ingrid and Edwin, because you have your typical format to just maybe share how this was different, if it was different.
Well, I can jump in on that. I found that with the guided meditation or body, sensations, that helped me it kind of said, hey, getting into the body is what we're here for, and I enjoy that. So it kind of created space for that to keep things from getting too maybe intellectual, more awareness of the body sensation. So I found it it's very enjoyable. I appreciate the space for that, and then hearing others in that same space helps reinforce it too. And so I can see doing this on a regular basis, having a vital introduction. I did hear that you were concerned, that you were doing the leading of the body work, so it kind of you have some work there that you're a bit distracted in terms of observing. Made me think maybe there could be a recording of someone that does it. You just click on the recording and then you're just following along or something like that. So
well, I would say normally when I'm leading, I do it myself. It's just when I'm in a new group, I'm less likely to do that at first. There's a certain amount of, I don't know, new group, pay attention,
okay. Got it.
that I don't do it as often. But I think if it's within your group and you're regularly doing this, it's easy enough to do.
Okay.
But you could do it as a recording, of course. But the nice thing about doing it live is that your body wisdom of what's happening on that day and what people might need can attune. We can even ask, right? I didn't ask you today, but sometimes I ask. I say, what do folks need today? And see if people have a request for a certain kind of centering or practice.
Yeah, I can see that how there are many guided meditations that are on tape. It could work, but having a presence, it has its own special value. I can see that.
Yeah.
For me, I very much like the experience of going inside and then letting things flow from there. However, I find, it prevents something that sometimes happens in circles when it gets very wordy and comes very much, it's really trying with your intellect to follow a discussion that can be a little taxing, but when people go just in body feelings, it doesn't really, you don't really understand it anyway. It's their experience. You don't understand it intellectually anyway. It's their experience. So it has a different quality that is in certain ways easier to listen to. However, I find it takes more time to, and then we had a longer introduction and so on. So maybe, but I find that because the sensations are somewhat amorph, you don't really, maybe since we're talking about listening, that's fine. The other person feels heard, but there's not as much of a sense of, I really totally understand what you're saying, because it's their feeling and all. So it's different in that way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's if somebody says, well, I struggle with my relationship with my daughter, it's more concrete than might also not really understand it on that level, but it's just a different experience to talk in the unconcrete.
Right, yeah.
So I kind of see it more as being incorporated, good word, I guess, in little in between, in little bits and pieces. I don't know exactly yet how that would work, but or I see a lot of applications in the empathy circle.
Yeah.
Like it.
Your share reminds me, in focusing world, there's something called interactive focusing where they do these empathic reflections, and they have an emphasis on inviting people to share the story, not just the physical sensation, so that you do have enough of the context to follow. So I hear what you're saying, that if we don't give that, because sometimes we have it, but we don't offer it in the share, harder to follow. Yeah.
That does seem to take a little bit more time. I don't know if I'm right there or not, but probably will kind of evolve with experience how to work the time.
Yeah.
That kind of format.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can say it quite quickly, right? Like you just said, if you just give a little bit of detail, this is about blah blah. Sometimes that's all that's needed, but we don't always do that.
I can read Alu's, what she likes. She said, I love this process. It so grounded me in spaciousness, and that was needed. Oh, that was her before she had to go.
Yeah. I'm curious, Ivana, your experience, because you've been doing our empathy circles, more focusing oriented and less.
Yeah, I do like the focusing part. I do like to go into my body, to drop into my body before actually I start sharing anything. And I also had opportunities of just sharing from the story from before connecting, without connecting to the body. So I kind of know the difference. What I really find the main difference is that when I do it from a place of what comes up to me, what wants to be heard and expressed, for me, it's always like a tension release. It's something like, okay, there is more space now. Like this one had to talk, and it did talk. What needed to happen, it happened. What waited there to be released or expressed, it did happen. Versus when I just say the story, it feels like there is more and more tension coming into my head. And then when the circle kind of ends, I keep going like this. So there's not that release, there's no more space. It's like, okay, I just talked and talked and talked, and then what? Kind of, that's the main difference for me.
I guess I see I see an application where we just add to our how-to that before you speak, you spend 10 seconds, 20 seconds to center. And then in the very beginning, we do an exercise together. And I don't know if that would work or not, but that kind of comes to my mind. I do feel that focusing might lead people deeper than they necessarily want to go. And that could be, or want to go, but it can lead them very deep, and that might add another element of that we haven't had before. Let's not call it then they want to go, but just the fact that it might lead them deeper adds another dimension that I would have to see what does it do with. So maybe it just needs to be mentioned that how you still have options or control, or still very voluntary. I don't know, but that's an element I see as well.
Yeah, we sometimes share that, you don't have to share everything that comes to you. You can keep things private. I think for the most part, in my experience, your body doesn't bring you something you're not ready for unless you force yourself to go there. Sometimes the ego kind of wants you to do something, and we might push ourselves to go somewhere. But if we're letting it emerge in a very natural way, usually you're ready. But it's true that there is that element of, oh, can I share this with these people? That's a different piece. And if you're not used to doing that, then
Yeah,
this might come up.
yeah, I've just experienced circles where people would share from a very different place, and I feel like that is completely okay, and it kind of leads them somewhere, and this is not something that we usually do, leading people somewhere, which doesn't mean we shouldn't or so, but it's just something to reflect that we're taking more charge as a facilitator if we use that than we otherwise do in the circle. I don't know what your opinion is on that, Edwin.
I see the going into the body as is a growth promoting process. So is Chenlin's theory or experience was the people who shared the moment to moment felt experience that had the deepest growth. So it was very, I mean, that's from his study of all the different therapy processes. He found it was more the speaker when they spoke from their felt experience, from the feelings, that they had more movement. Those feelings moved and developed, and here we have a context for it. It's maybe it needs more time for, we have 5-minute turns. Maybe it takes a 6-7-minute turn, so people have more time to move something like that too. But I do see it as a whole another workshop or unit to add to the empathy circle, that if this is what you want, we have tools and practices to go deeper. And I know I always feel good. I mean, I feel good just doing it. So it's like, so it's almost invariably, it's a good feeling for me.
Yeah, I see you're more thinking of having it an extra unit. I was kind of thinking of, that's how we do the circle now.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That this started happening. I was supposed to. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I like it simple. The basic circle is simple, but then, hey, you want to do this next level, here's some tools for how to do that. Then you can hold a feeling empathy circle, it's a deeper feeling empathy circle or something like that. So I
love it. I totally love that. Yeah.
And in our empathy summit, Annette will be speaking about this too. So hopefully introduce it to, the focusing aspect, how focusing can affect the empathy circle. So I'm looking forward to that. Could even be a whole summit at some point just on empathy circle and focusing, so.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, look forward to November 2nd. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for leading us to do this, and we'll think about kind of next steps. I'm going to put this online so that others can watch it and get a little bit of an introduction how this works, and start educating people and see about maybe actually doing a empathy cafe or some sort of a training, so kind of see how we can develop that. So yeah, so grateful for everyone taking part.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Iwan.
Thank you, Iwan, for joining us, and thanks for leading this, Annette.
Thank you for having me.
Care.